Hi. I would first like to start off by saying that the sessions, they were very informative. There were a lot to learn and a lot for you to grasp. There were 8 sessions in total, and they spanned a wide number of ranges, be it about your self-care in terms of health and wellness, down to even interview preparations or getting to know your students. There was a lot to unpack. My favorite session, which I would say, and this actually was the first session that we had, it was getting to know your students. So in that session, we got to learn a bit about differentiation and how it is that students learn through different means, different avenues. Some might be visual learners, some might be more hands-on, some might be audio learners. But regardless of what, you as a teacher, you have to figure out what the strengths and weaknesses of that student is and curtail your lesson plan to fit each and every individual need of that student. That was something that stood out the most, the word differentiation in that session. And yes, it might be something that is difficult because one might sit and wonder, well, how is it that I can cater to 20 different needs within one lesson? But I guess that's something that we build as we go along, as we become effective and great teachers. We also looked at technology within the classroom or within the realms of education, and we understand that these are changing times. And so whatever it is might be the norm back then may not be the norm now. Here we are in a world, a society where we are heavily reliant upon AI. However, we as teachers, we are to understand how is it that we can actually use artificial intelligence for our benefit. Yes, some might say that the cons outweigh the pros, but if we look at it from a more open-minded perspective, then we'll understand how is it that we can actually use those AI tools to enhance our learning, to enhance the environment that we produce for our kids. And the sad thing about it is here we are in a traditional classroom setting. A classroom is no different than it is back in the 1900s. But we have to figure out how is it that different seating arrangements and how different aspects within the technology realm can actually impact the learning of our students and what it is that we are willing to do to fix and to utilize said tools to enhance the learning abilities of our students. We also look at the rules and the regulations, and so we understand that regardless of what, there's always a sense of professionalism that is to be held. We as teachers, we have a non-delegable duty of care towards students, that regardless of what, if they are in your supervision, then you have that obligatory role where you have to always look out for that student. You then serve as parent, you then serve as police, you then serve as every single role that you can think of, and you have to be the one safeguarding that student. You also have to safeguard yourself. There are certain means, yes, persons may come up to you, students, and want to know your social media, but you have to set that bound. Hey, that is not for you, that is more personal. And you maintain that professional boundary with your students so as to not overstep and to not make yourself liable for anything. We also look at teaching like a champion. What does it mean to teach as a champion? What does it take to be a champion teacher? And we discussed that to be a champion teacher, you have to always relentlessly believe in your students. You have to set a classroom culture where when the students come in, they already know what it is that you are expecting of them. And that's another thing too. You're supposed to always be setting high expectations for your students. And it was said that champion teachers do not lower their bar. Instead, they raise students to meet their bar. So nothing is too small for your kids to accomplish. Nothing is too small that they cannot grasp. They can always and should always reach for the highest. So at the end of the day, you set your high expectations, you have your classroom culture, and you continue to have this growth mindset that regardless of what, we are going to excel and we're going to propel into the future. We also look at stuff like professional communication. And sadly, the thing is, we may not notice this, but it's only 7% of the things we communicate are done so verbally. A lot of it is more so done with our nonverbal language. So the way we might set our face, or body language, we might be slouching. That then says, I'm uninterested, I don't want to be here. But that comes across a whole lot more, and it's a lot more impactful than the words that might actually come out of your mouth. And so that is something that we have to pay keen attention to. Managing interpersonal relationships, regardless of what, it's not only your students that are going to have different personality types. You're going to come across different personality types to everybody. No matter the hierarchical structure, the principal is not going to be your friend and should not be your friend. Your department head should not be your friend. But at the same time, you should maintain a connection between them. It should be professional at all times. How is it that you manage conflict? Because yes, of course, there are going to be differing thoughts. So how is it, I have this thought, you have this thought, what's the middle ground? How do we come to a compromise? And it was taught that there were 5 main conflict resolutionary skills. However, a good problem solver should always know how to utilize all 5 of those skills and not particularly prefer one over the other, but it shows your level of communication when it is you can decipher which one of those skills you are to utilize based on the context. Professional etiquette. How is it that you carry yourself? Your behavior, your conduct, your appearance. How do you show up? How do you represent yourself? Regardless of what, again, there should always be a sense of professionalism. So you should always be properly attired at all times. No excess piercings for the ladies. Your skirt should be below your knee. No tight skirts, no tight pants. The same for the gentlemen. They shouldn't have anything that is, properly fit. And normally the dress code within the school setting is more so professional casual. You can come, it doesn't have to be a suit and a tie at all times. You know when to show out. You wear suit and tie when it's gala time, but yes, you show up based on the occasion. How do you present yourself? Punctuality as well. School starts at 8:25. By 8 o'clock the latest, you should be on campus. Nothing beyond that. You give your time some grace. You give yourself some grace, so that you can collect your thoughts for the day. Because what if somebody comes and as soon as you step in the gate, something happens and you don't even have time to process that, because you reach 8:25 on the dot. You don't have time to calm yourself back down, bring yourself ready and avail yourself to start the day. So punctuality as well, that is a big one. Health and wellness. When you're within the workforce, sometimes it can become, teaching is a very stressful profession. Regardless, kids, they are going to get on your nerves. Parents, they are going to get on your nerves. Colleagues, whatever it is. But how is it that you then step away from that? What is it that you do? Be it you decide to do a physical self-care, social self-care, emotional self-care. How do you regulate yourself? Keep yourself in check so that you can then be the best version of yourself, so you can show up for your students. We also had interview preparedness and question and answer, and I think that was very interesting. So in that case, we got to learn a whole lot more. We got to go a little bit more in depth. Frequently asked questions, what it is comes up. How is it that you can prepare yourself for the upcoming interview? What can you learn? What can you take away? How is it that you're going to manage in certain interview questions? And I think that was a very good thing to implement as well. So all in all, I think that the sessions were very good. They were informative. I looked at it more so from an observational standpoint, I will say. So for instance, where we had the professional etiquette class, we were placed in groups of 4 and 5s, and that is something that you think of, you at least take it in and you say, hey, what is the importance of grouping off when it comes to me managing my classroom and I'm placed in that situation, as well as looking at gamification. How effectively can I implement games within my lesson, that it's not going to be a distraction, that the students there are going to have fun and learn at the end of the day? Those are key things that I observed. And it was very, as well as the classroom layout, because again, we're already used to the traditional seated one behind the other. But even before we got into any of the breakout sessions or anything like that, the classroom, they would have been structured more so in a U-shape method, and then a couple desks were placed in the middle. And then you think about that and you say, hey, this makes it a whole lot easier for the teacher to get around to the kids that may need a little bit more help. So those are the ones that you probably place in the middle, and then those along the outsides and the U shape, those are ones that can work a little bit more independently, again catering to the differentiation aspect of the lesson. And how is it, like, just the way you lay out your classroom can play a very pivotal role in how your kids perceive and how they take in the information. So again, I think this session itself was very good, very informative, and very enjoyable.